Hello, hello, and welcome to Day 9 Daily number 335, Part 2. It's the most casual daily of all time. I'm very, very excited. We fixed the air conditioning in my house. Which means that I don't have to sit here and sweat so hard for esports. That's right, I had a Los Angeles house with no air conditioning. Why do you think I was drinking ice water all the time? We're doing a half and half, you guys. That's what we're doing. We are looking at Sen versus MC. We just blasted through the games, developed a list of questions, and now we're going to look at it from MC's point of view. Just kind of very briefly go through it and see what we can glean from that perspective. And then after that, we're going to do Sen, and then after that, we're going to take questions, and then we're going to be done. It's going to be a little more on the swift side of a daily, because you know what? You know what? Thursday was not kind to me. Thursday. The second best day of the week. If only it were Monday, you know what I'm saying? Where it's Fun Day Monday. I should probably let you know that the topic for Monday is, of course, to lift off your initial command center to float it somewhere else. So let's go ahead and take some questions. Aha! What are some good things? Why did MC not harass Zerg at all? Here are some things. That's a good question, Soul Riser. Let's keep that in mind. Be assertive, or be assertive. Be assertive, written as be assertive, one word. Be assertive. Wow. Asks, Dear Day 9, how does Protoss transition from air to ground based technology? Dear Day 9, why didn't he concern himself with air defense more given the presence of Baneling drops down the anti-air from Zerg? DT timing from Haze Mode. Haze Mode wants to know where the hell those DTs is coming from. Ladies and gents, but primarily ladies as well as gentlemen. Let's go ahead and hop into the game and try to answer some of these questions. We're going to not spend an excruciating amount of time going over every detail, but let's see if we can maybe hit some big nuggets. And the number one thing I am looking for to sum up is the interaction of what do we see from Zerg, what can we conclude that he is not doing, and therefore what is an appropriate response. Excuse me. Alright, this all seems rote and dry, etc. Hey, alright, we see a pool and we see no gas. We know no Zergling speed. We know a lot of Baneling busts are not entirely possible. Yeah, I bet you guys haven't been Baneling busted in this match in quite some time. It's totally plausible. It does happen. And expand, I would imagine an even later speed from Zerg. I intentionally just removed the production tab, just so that way we can try to look at it from a little more pure standpoint, as though we were playing, getting a spot on those gas. And by the way, if you ever click on the gas, you can actually see how much is remaining inside of it. So we can conclude, oh, he started Zergling speed. So this expand seems absolutely fine to me. You know, if an opponent, say, went for a really early extractor and pool and then went for this, I think it makes sense to say to myself, well, I'm probably going to be building gateways 2 and 3 before I expand, because he's probably going to have a lot of speedlings, maybe something else like a roach. So even though I know many of you do this as a default strategy, one gate, 2 assimilator, then expand, even though I know many of you do that, I just want to make sure that we don't forget or skimp out on the idea of, maybe if I just did this almost always, except in this small set, then you could probably improve a lot of games, instead of just saying, it's my opening build. Looking at it as a response to a certain set of patterns that we're seeing, as opposed to just a blind build. But I do want to note that this build is just a blind opening. Kind of kicks ass. It kind of kicks ass. So interestingly, the Stargate going down after 4 sentries, okay. And as soon as humanly possible, planting all the good old gatewayist there. And this is already something that I think is pretty interesting to me. I can get away with making 5 sentries before my Stargate finishes. I think many folk may not have considered this. Because look at that timing. Oh, isn't it marveloso? Marvelous. And how does he transition out of this? It looks like he gets his 3 gateways up, and hell, he actually does not produce out of them. He's actually not building anything at all out of them. In production, we just see probes. He's beginning to get the Phoenix. And this is something that was weird to me because I spent a very long time analyzing this air style from oGsMC, and here's the general trick that he's been doing before is the following. Build 3 Void Rays, and then begin rallying in Phoenixes. It used to be the case that, with this style, if you got a Void Ray really fast, you would get it so that way you could rally it here and shut down his third base. And a lot of people have been able to defend that now. So what MC does is said, okay, take your third. I'm going to build so many Void Rays that you're going to have an impossibly difficult time defending against it because I'm also going to get 7 Phoenixes here. So again, that air style analysis is in another video. So I'm especially curious about what it is he saw here. He sees the Evo chamber, a question we were going to ask ourselves about a little bit earlier. He lifts, yeah, it looks like he just pulls back. Sees a Roach Warren. It's all good. Has he made anything new? No, actually just 5 sentries. Huh. And his second gases. He's still making lots of Phoenixes. Getting a Forge up. So, okay, cool. I mean, MC has not really seen anything coming at him at this point. He hasn't seen a third. There, he finally sees a third. And yet, up until this very point, he's only been building assimilators, probes, forges, air units. I mean, basically, he's been doing everything except building gateway units. And if I come to the unit counting station, we can see that probe count is quite high. MC's actually been spending some chrono boost on his workers. So here's something that's here's something I'm gonna say. I like to preface every time I talk with just letting everyone know that it's gonna happen. Very good. Part of me wishes this was like caffeine or something. Alright, let's get this out of the way. It's one of these moments where it's very easy to go, oh my god, MC, you are not getting any defense at all. I mean, everyone gets these. Everyone is always, yes, I must get a Zealot and Sentries to force field against those early lings. Yes, very good. And everyone knows how to do this sort of harassment and all this good jazz, but I think it's most noteworthy, especially for you lower Protosses, to note how much MC is going to get away with. Because an important thing to ask yourself is, what is he going to attack me with? Really, at this point in the game. What could he be attacking me with? Well, I can conceive him attacking me with a lot of Zerglings, with a big Roach Zergling attack. Maybe just Roaches, maybe some Banelings in there as well. A lot of stuff that doesn't shoot up. Queens are probably not going to be knocking down at my front door. So as a matter of fact, this one single Void Ray, I think a lot of people have experienced that this can barely finish in time to hold off most all-ins. If an opponent goes for a Roach all-in, you will feel to yourself, whoa, thank God this Void Ray timing's so good. But it's that next step that gets left by the wayside by huge numbers of players, even many Grandmaster players. If it holds off an all-in, it also holds off an attack of a similar composition of units. So in a sense, by going for this air very, very early, and by spotting this third eventually, we can say, man, there is no way you can have a layer up and finished and have Hydralisks running at my front door anytime soon. So of course it makes sense to skimp on all the gateway production. And if you think about it, we've basically only produced out of 1 gateway this entire game, although we did make 3. That's quite unusual when you state that out loud. We have a 5th Phoenix on the field. MC is just poking back and forth. I mean, he's seen the 4th hatch and everything. But I want to just pin it on the 3rd. If we've seen a 3rd base come up, we don't really see a layer. I mean, we see a lot of Queens out as well. I mean, I think it's entirely reasonable for us to assume he can't really get air units to us, or anything that kills air units very quickly, and as a result, it's going to be fairly safe to expand. As I'm seeing this expand, look at this movement pattern by MC. MC is always going to stay here and or here. I don't think you're ever going to see MC run his Phoenixes all the way to the left or all the way to the right. Why is that? Because this air is a fundamental part of his ground attack harass. Not attack harass, his ground defense. Being able to hold off big swarms of roaches. So now we see the robotics bay coming in right now. This seems like a little bit of a danger. We see the Void Rage patrolling. He's just done no damage. And yet he's still able to do things like this. This is great. I'm also noting that, you know, we saw that he got his robotics facility. We saw him get his robotics bay out. He's going to be incoming with some Colossus. That's great. And he's building these gateways. That's great. I also am asking, when's the Twilight Council go down? It looks like it goes down well after our third gets established. So we see an oodle bit of Zerglings en route, but it's not going to be a big deal. It looks like we can easily kind of defend against it. Void Ray is still harassing. A fast observer does not scout anything at all. Now, here's a moment where the lesson I gave is just really damn true, damn it. God. So what did I say? Anytime you see something, don't argue against it first. Try to argue for it first. This is a pretty easy observer to argue against. You say, well, why the hell are you getting an observer if you're not going to go scout with it? This seems bad. You should just go scout with it. No. Argue for him. When you don't understand it, try to concoct something that you think would be an explanation for it. Even if your gut tells you it sucks. Even if you see a guy lose like 40 Zerglings really quickly. Try to think to yourself, well, maybe that's good because it frees up some food, and then it will force my opponent to get a little bit more defense, and I did kill off 3 sentries, so this sort of thing. This observer to me is another way of saying, you know, we desperately need to have a good stranglehold on the ground force, but we don't really need to know exactly what he's doing. We know that he's going not really fast Hydralisk, which allowed us to get this third up. Other than that, there's no real reason to scout the opponent. What deviation are we going to do? We're going to begin adding Stalkers and Blink, and we're going to begin getting more and more upgrades, and well, hell, I mean, just having the observer here spotting attack movement at the important half, like the fast entry to all our bases, is going to be good. And now, for the first time in a long time, we're seeing the Phoenixes be willing to move somewhere other than right around here. True movement in relation to your expansions is one of the most important concepts. This only makes sense to me because of this. Ordinarily, this would be just dumb suicide. You are sacrificing the only defense measure you have. Remember, we have not been making units for the early phase of the game. Always want to move your units in a way that the expansions are defended behind them. And, of course, we get the early spot on that. The Phoenixes, again, still not really skirting that far into the Zerg base. Still always wanting to come back to a center. And we're getting our good Robo and stuff. We get a Twilight Council. It doesn't look like we rushed necessarily for a Twilight Council. But we're amazingly seeing no Stalkers until like 140 food. That feels a little bit uncommon, don't you think? Not bad, just uncommon. Just uncommon. Yeah, lifting everything with the Spore Crawlers. Excuse me. Oh boy. And now we're slowly losing our air dominance, but we still have this key observer. I would imagine now that these Phoenixes would want to be skirting up to the top, maybe to the left a little bit, but keeping it a little bit more right-ernly seems reasonable. And once again, we see just now starting to rebuild a lot of units. How many Colossi do we have out? Well, we just have 2, a third one coming up. And I'm just going to begin keeping a tab on the production to see if anything noteworthy happens. Nothing that noteworthy is happening for me, with one exception. We have not spotted our opponent doing anything. We've just seen some infestors. I think a reasonable thing to state is also we've seen not any Mutalisks and not really any Corruptors or any other air jazz shenanigans, but we've almost seen nothing from Zerg. We've seen no Zerglings, no Roaches, no Banelings, and in general, when you don't see a ground army, it's difficult to conclude stuff. Air armies you'll generally get to interact with a little bit more. People don't like hide back with like 45 Mutalisks all game long. And if they do, you'll generally be doing pushes that are pretty decently adequate. But also this push from oGsMC doesn't actually seem like it needs that much information to do a big, heavy change. Kind of funny to note that these Phoenixes still essentially staying nearby the army, eh? Still basically staying nearby the army. And now we see the Dark Shrine. We had some questions about the Dark Shrine earlier on, and in particular the question about, you know, getting Templar. Dark Shrine is something, it's one of the few tools Protoss has to have a small amount of units doing damage. Like, if you're Terran, you can put guys in a medevac and move to the other side of the map. If you're Zerg, hell, you can even walk 12 Zerglings somewhere else. But if you're Protoss, you can't exactly run 4 Stalkers to a side, or you can't exactly do this sort of stuff with Zealots, because look what happens, you just get bear mauled. So I do quite like that he's just getting this DT tech. And it's kind of funny to me to note the first time these Phoenixes really move to the right is once a big army arrives. And it's moving to the right side, and the observer moves to the left side. That's actually... This, where you move to a side, and your biggest point of vulnerability has a spotter, is really big. This might actually, I think, have been a little bit late. This might have been a little bit late. Just ungood. We don't see any Templar at all, just more Stalkers being morphed in. Huh. I kind of would have gotten a Templar Archives a little bit sooner. But the Baneling drops, so good, so good, so good. Expand going down, but real careful pulling back. The whole army's basically going to stay at the front or on the right side. And this is just marvelous, this sort of a pushing action. I don't see anything too special at this point in time. I think that the most special aspect of this play is how MC correctly identified what was going on with the opponent's third base. And then this little tactic with the DT. oGsMC got his own third up very quickly, got a good mix of units up, has a lot of upgrades, is not really engaging in big, huge direct fights, but when he does engage, he has ways to hit a lot of places, hard and fast, all at once. I mean, this is essentially one big counter push by MC that's just winning this game. 45 kills, 50 kills for each of them. That's so bejugular. And this seems pretty straightforward at this point. I'm curious why not Templar? Why not Templar? Why not Templar? And why not attack earlier? Well, I'm actually... Let me come back to this because I can actually answer this really quickly. A big question I was asking myself is, why the hell wasn't oGsMC just like attacking earlier? And the big simple answer is that he was cutting huge numbers of units for very long periods of time. And also, if we just come to the unit counting station at moments, we can see that, like, if we're cutting a lot of units, this army will get ripped up by this many hatches worth of roaches. I mean, if there's, like, a big ground force plus stalkers in the mix, then yeah, the roaches won't really do so well. But man, if you're going Zealot Sentry, and he has the production capacity of 4 frickin' hatches, that can be a very good set of reasoning to me. But I was asking myself, to be explicit, what is he seeing that's making him not want to attack? What is making him not really want to attack? Part of me, I'm a little torn on this one. So part of me wants to say, well, oGsMC's entire build order is geared up to have the Blink and the upgrades and the 3 Colossi finish, and then he can sort of surge forward with the Dark Templar. Okay, well that's obvious that that works, but why not, I don't know, why not just suddenly sprint forward because our opponent, you know, like maybe even 6 minutes ago, why not push with just our Zealot Sentry? And though ordinarily I would want to delve deep into that, we're just going to skip it because I want to get on to Sen. I want to get on to that there Sen. I wanna get on it. etc., 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 etc. Moving right along. Let's go to the Dark Templar, killing everything portion of the game. Wow, look at how good MC is. Look at the amount of stuff lost by the opponent. Ooh, grody, grody, grody. Oh yeah, that's like super grody. Ha grody. MC, when do you get Templar MC? I actually think this is a blunder to actually wait that long to get him. There's no other reason we really can't at this point in time. And now, a big reason I wouldn't want to attack is because we've just killed off like 2.5 expansions. Even this third doesn't really have that much mining in it. So it's actually incorrect to attack. Just get more upgrades, restabilize. It looks like that's what MC's doing. He's actually going to have a pretty clean, easy finish. He actually just attacks in a minute. Wins the game, as you saw. And we did some learning. I think the big things that I gleaned from this is that MC's style is to cut huge amounts of units from his gateways if he sees a fast third. And he's going to respond to your fast third by taking a fast third of his own. Hey, that seems pretty good. Because a lot of the questioning as to why he was not attacking, you can relate back to the idea of, well, he's just not making any units. He's getting the upgrade really fast, he's getting the robotics facility really fast, and he's just relying on this one Void Ray and a couple of Phoenixes to hold off some big pushes from the Zerg. I mean, Zergling Roach is going to run into trouble if they're well force field and the Zealots can rush up there, but you're going to need that Void Ray for the Roaches, but you freaking have that. And then after that, it was a pretty clean stepping into Colossus. He began to get the Colossus, and then he just got a bunch of Stalkers, and hey, there you go. So I think that this was a really cool, highly defensive, simple style from MC that I'm digging quite a bit. And because we did see Sen get himself into an amazing situation, though he lost, he still got that nice, solid platform. We're going to take a look at that in part 3. Coming up after this, for now, we're going to take ourselves a brief break because it is a little bit of foodie time.